Today's episode of the Inside EVs podcast is brought to you by E-Range EV Tyre. E-Range EV tyres are specifically engineered for electric vehicles. Using an advanced manufacturing process called liquid phase mixing, E-Range EV's EcoPoint 3 technology creates a tyre with lower rolling resistance and longer range, while offering low levels of wear and high grip. All this while staying affordable. Go to erangetires.com. That's ERANGE tyres.com to find your EV's next set of tyres.
Hello, and welcome to the Inside EVs podcast for December the 16th, 2022. This is episode number 141. Thanks for joining us. On today's show, we'll be talking about the debut of the Toyota Hilux Revo BEV concept. Lightyear Zero goes into production, and Hyundai is implementing virtual dual-clutch gearbox in its performance EVs. I'm Dominic Ioni, Inside EVs forum moderator and Inside EVs editor. Joining us today is the resplendent Tom Logney, senior editor at Inside EVs and host of the YouTube channel State of Charge. We also have the mild-mannered Mr. Martin Lee from the EV News Daily podcast, which is available on all the best podcast platforms. And of course, Kyle Connor joins us from the majestic, practically palatial halls of Out of Spec Studios, where he produces high-voltage videos for a growing number of YouTube channels. So welcome, everybody.
Good morning.
Great to see y'all.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Mr. Martin Lee is in the UK, if you don't know, if you're just joining us now. So let's kick this thing off with some news and then get to what we've been driving this week. So we don't have any like big news stories this week, but we do have a bunch of smaller ones. So let's get down to it. So first off, big congratulations to Lightyear. Its Lightyear Zero solar car has gone into production. It's being manufactured at Valmet Automotive. That's a contract manufacturer. And they've made cars for Mercedes. They make the cars for Mercedes now, and they've built cars for Porsche, many others, as well as like the Fisker Karma. I think we've talked about the Lightyear Zero here before, and I think we've expressed some doubts about the viability of its business plan. So this is probably a good time to remind you that this first model, it's a sedan, 4 doors. You can see it on your screen if you're watching us on YouTube or Twitch or Facebook. So this first model will cost buyers at least 250,000 euros. That's $264,000. Good morning to you, Mr. Brandon Flash, signing in there on the comments. So the car is said to have a WLTP range of 388 miles, 625 kilometers, with 5 square meters of double curved solar panels that they say will provide an additional 70 kilometers or 44 miles of range per day in ideal conditions. They also say that you can probably go in regular driving, you can go about 1,000 miles before you'd have to plug it in, actually. So unless you're doing like a long cross country stint like Kyle might do, just your day-to-day driving, you might go like 1,000 miles because you're getting sunlight added miles every day while you're not being plugged in through the solar panels. So it's super efficient. They say it uses only 10.5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, or that's 169 watt hours per mile, which is pretty darned efficient, I think. So it'll be interesting to see if they can find enough buyers willing to pay big money for this kind of efficiency. Volkswagen managed to find buyers for its XL1 at 111,000 euros back in 2014. So it's not impossible. I think, Kyle, you had a look at that car recently too. So they're planning on building just one a week to start, but of course this will ramp up. And I should also mention that this has the 4 in-wheel motors from Ilaf. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. So it's one of the first production vehicles to have these. So Kyle, its next solar car is supposed to be a more affordable, sold at a more affordable price in 2025. So does entering production give you any confidence that it can survive to reach that next car?
Well, that's the big question. I mean, one a week isn't going to do anything, at least for now.
Right.
They'll ramp up, it sounds like. So I sent one of my colleagues to go drive this car, one of the prototypes. And from what I heard was that it didn't actually capture as much sun as they were expecting, and it wasn't as efficient as they were expecting. But this is a prototype car, who knows? So we'll have to get our hands on one of these and run it through the actual testing. The thing is, in countries where at least in Europe, where EV is really popular, Germany, Norway, there's not all that much sunlight, in all honesty. Like, it's not like here in Colorado where we have 330 days of bright sun beating down on everything.
Right.
Also, I think at this price, a lot of people will have garages and not want to keep their car outside. I think actually it's more of a bragging right than people actually spending this much money for efficiency. I don't think anyone dropping $200,000+ on a car really cares that much about sipping the juice. They're just like, oh, that's pretty cool, and they'll leave it plugged in their garage all day.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I was wondering about that. I can see if like a few eccentric, or people with money, being all about that kind of a thing, and just kind of geeking out on it. But so I'm not even sure what the production or what the production rate or what the total amount they're planning on. I don't know how many sales they have lined up for this thing yet.
But I mean, big step to make a series production vehicle. So congrats to them for doing that,
it's great.
Especially on such a niche, high value concept. Now, the big question will be, are they going to be reliable? Is it actually going to work in theory? Because up to this point, we've only had manufacturer stated claims. No one's independently tested any of this. So I'm really looking forward to getting over there. We have a good relationship with Lightyear, but they know I'm cautiously optimistic about the car. So I hope they let us drive it for some days and play around with it, and we'll do the actual testing.
Right. Hey, Tom, do you have any thoughts about the Solar Zero?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like Kyle said about exclusivity. I think it's a proof of concept as much as it is anything. They're only going to make, I think, in the hundreds. I know you said you weren't sure of the number of them. Very small run of these, and I think it was just kind of like, look, we can do this, and the people that are going to buy them are people, maybe collectors that want a rare vehicle. I can't imagine this thing being driven often, and like you said, parked outside in the sunlight so it recharges. I just don't know why somebody would spend $260,000 on a vehicle to try to save $15 a week in electricity. So it's a proof of concept, and I'm really happy they're making it to production. I had a chance to sit in one of these a few years ago at I think it was at CES. I forget which one of the shows I was at.
How did it feel like an inside? Like, that's something I couldn't find any interior shots.
So it kind of reminded me, I was going to say, of the Aptera. Is interior very minimalistic. There you see a picture of it there.
Okay.
I sat in a kind of an earlier prototype because this was I'm saying I think it was right before COVID. So it was probably CES 2000, like January of 2000. So it's going on 3 years ago, and it was one of their earlier production vehicles. And I did a post on Inside EVs, tons of pictures of it and everything. It was pretty cool. But at that time, I'm pretty sure, if my memory, if I'm correct, the price was much less than what it ended up being, what they were predicting. It was still going to be very expensive.
Right.
But I don't think it was going to be over 200,000. I thought they were in the 150 range, but I could be wrong. But now that it's up over like 250, I mean, that's rarefied air. Think of the vehicles you can have for $250,000. And, it's hard for me to see this being much of an impact in the overall, moving the needle in the industry much. It's a great proof of concept. I wish them well with it, but, let's see what they could do if they can get to that second vehicle that's more affordable.
Right. And I wonder always what they mean by more affordable. I mean, more affordable would be $100,000. That's more affordable, but it's still doesn't do anything for me.
I mean, if you're getting to the point where somebody's buying a car so they don't have to plug it in and save money, you're thinking of something, under $40,000, where, it would make sense for somebody to, park it on their lawn because that has the best, angle of the sun, and do everything they can to make sure it's always parked in the sunlight so they don't have to pay for fuel, and this is just so
Right. It's kind of similar in some ways to like the Aptera, but it's such a different approach to well, the Aptera approach is like completely different from everybody to begin with. But it's a 3-wheel car, and this is like a very conventional, streamlined, of course, but conventional looking car. But they also, rely on solar and have in-wheel motors over there. The same in-wheel motor supplier, actually. So that's one of the aspects of this whole thing I'm really curious about is the in-wheel motor supply. But in our comments, people are talking a lot about comparing this with the Sono Scion, or was this? Yeah, the Sono Scion, which Kyle, you saw the prototype of that, right, in person?
Well, I've driven it. Yeah.
Right. But they more recently showed the final kind of production version, which was kind of different. But I haven't seen the actual story, but I've seen people noting that they're sort of in trouble, the company.
Yeah,
maybe?
they ran out of money and they tried to go to the markets for investment, couldn't get it, and now they are going to their early reservation customers and crowdsourcing more cash. So it doesn't look good.
That's crazy. There's so much cash for some projects, out there. It seems like nothing. I can't think of anything right off the top of my head, but I know there's like big projects out there that they just pull in millions of dollars, like magic or something, and then something like this. I mean, these guys have been just building something from nothing over there. This, you saw you drove the original prototype. It was, glued and screwed together, basically, this built car, and they've managed to progress a long way with a kind of a radical idea too.
Yeah, but I'm not sure they really progressed much from that. It is a bit sad to see, though, because they've been working for years and years and years.
Right.
Somehow, surprisingly, staying afloat through this entire time. And now they're like, oh, the end is in sight. They revealed the series production intent model. And, I knew something was up because they weren't like, oh, we start production with this contract manufacturer like now. Right. It's, it costs a lot of money to pony up these things. Also, contract manufacturers don't really want to take on the risk of a failing car company.
No, they were financed. Yeah,
the huge investment for them as well, and to have something unstable is a little bit scary. So I really feel bad because I like the founders. I know the founders; they're great people. The product, in my opinion, I shared my opinion when I reviewed it, is nothing that I'm personally interested in. I think mobility should be fun and interesting and look cool. This is just none of that. But it is a cool concept. An inexpensive, shareable, solar charging electric vehicle makes sense on paper. And I understand the enthusiasm. Really sad to see this situation. Hopefully, because they have a really, really enthusiastic early reservation holder base. Hopefully they can get over this hump. They can get the $100-200 million they need. I forget exactly how much it was. It's a lot of money. I hope they can get it and, go through. I just thought it was kind of interesting. It's like Carvana only has like $300 million left on hand. This startup company needs almost that just to get into production, and then the hard work starts once they get into series production. So the long road ahead for these guys.
It's hard to start a car company, let's face it. I mean, we've seen all these. Tesla almost died on a few occasions. Mercedes is one of the companies that really saved Tesla. A lot of people don't know that story. Maybe they regret doing that at this point, but without that $50 million investment and then giving them the contracts to make the B-Class powertrain, Elon has said that they would have had to file for bankruptcy. They were days from bankrupt. And now we see, Lucid and Rivian both struggling, to get things going. And these are big, established. You would think they seem established. They're making cars. They're delivering cars. So then you look at this little Sonos Motors, and they've been kicking the can for how many years now? 12 years? I think I remember them like in 2011 talking about the car and showing what it was going to look like and whatever. I mean, early days of EVs, they were out there with a solar car. So, I mean, they've been at this for a long time. And to see them kind of getting close to the finish line, but not being able to push it over is it's sad. I mean, I hope they make it. We're not saying they're dead, but as Kyle pointed out, just getting that 300 million, that won't be enough.
Right.
That's just kind of like to get the thing into
started.
production.
Yeah.
But then look at how companies struggle after vehicles are in production. So, they've got a tough road ahead of them. I hope they make it. I have a little bit of a softer stance on it than Kyle does. Maybe I think, while there's absolutely a need for fun, exciting, great looking cars, there's also a need for boring people movers that are, inexpensive and, just point A to point B vehicles. And I think what was the purpose of this was supposed to be an inexpensive way to move people around, particularly in big cities. And, for that point, I hope it gets made.
Yeah, the whole sharing concept works pretty well. The whole drivetrain seems to work really well. They have V to L. It's like a pretty well thought out package. They just need to make it.
Right. Well, let's move on. Toyota famously showed off over a dozen electric vehicle concepts about a year ago, and the Hilux Revo BEV concept definitely wasn't one of them. So, looking very much like a regular Hilux with a different fascia, this electric Hilux just debuted in Thailand, and it would seem to signal that Toyota will build an electric version here, not here, but electric version on the same platform for some markets at least. So this is not a truck we get in North America, but you see them in all over the rest of the world. Do you get those in the UK, Martin?
The Hilux, yeah,
not this smaller version,
but not Revo. So yeah.
Oh, okay. So there's the different versions of the Hilux, Kyle?
Must be. I didn't know there was.
Oh yeah, tons. I mean, they have 1 million pickup trucks on sale, but the big Hilux is pretty big.
Okay, I was thinking, but that's on a different platform. So this is like a smaller one.
Yeah, this looks like a little like you'll see these in Southeast Asia very commonly driving around, and this type of application will be hugely popular, for many countries. It just needs steel wheels.
Right. Not used to seeing one of these with fancy wheels on it.
Yeah, doesn't work.
But even if they build them, Tom, can they sell these in price sensitive markets? Like, I don't know, because I know this taking the regular Hilux looks like and converting it somehow, in the factory. So, kind of a low cost platform and I guess, but it's more labor intensive, I think, to do it this way. But I don't know. It's still, if they can if the price can get low enough for this kind of a market.
No, I think they absolutely can. Even if the price costs more than a comparable gas vehicle, if particularly for business owners, when they do run the numbers and look at the long-term overall cost of maintenance and fueling, it makes a ton of sense. And I don't really want to talk too much about the Hilux because we don't get it here in North America.
Right.
But I'm gonna move this over to Tacoma. It still is crazy to me that Toyota has not announced that they're going to make an electric Tacoma in this market. The Tacoma sells so well, and that small, medium-sized pickup truck sells so well here in the U.S. Look at the Ford. The Ford's.
Lightning.
Their new small pickup truck. I can't believe I can't.
The Maverick.
The Maverick. I had a brain fart there.
Okay.
But the Ranger and the Maverick sell so well. Ford is absolutely, and they haven't confirmed this yet or said anything, and this isn't inside information. I just know common sense.
Right.
They're working on an electric Maverick and an electric Ranger.
Yep.
I expect to have both of them to market by 2025. And Toyota has this opportunity, or had this opportunity, to come out and dominate that market segment with an all electric pickup truck here. And they're just saying, nah, it doesn't work. We're not doing it. And that's good for Ford, because Ford's going to come out with those small, mid-size and small pickup trucks. And I think they're going to do amazingly. So, it's mind numbing to me that Toyota hasn't made an electric Tacoma.
Right. Yeah. The Maverick is like an amazing value too. That's I really want to see what kind of price point they can get to with that in like a Lightning, like a all electric, like a Maverick Lightning, I guess we'd call it. Probably they'll call it.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't have any inside information on that, but that's what I would suspect, that they'll have their Lightning line, and there'll be a Ranger Lightning and a Maverick Lightning, and it's just, I'd probably drop down to a Ranger size truck and sell the F-150 and get that. I don't need as big of a truck as the F-150 is, but it's
You like the way that the F-150 rides, though. I don't know
God, it rides so well.
if you make
Yeah.
it smaller, if it'll be quite the same experience.
It probably wouldn't be as good, but I think Ford would work hard at making the driving experience as good as they could. But I mean, it's all a matter of driving it and seeing what it's like. That's
Right.
one of the things that I like over the Rivian is how the Lightning is just such a cool cruiser. But I'm still just gobsmacked that Toyota hasn't announced that they're going to do an electric Tacoma. It would sell like wildfire.
I like this comment by Philly Phil. E-Tacoma, wait for it. Wait for it. Yes, we will be waiting for a while probably. And also, don't call it E-Tacoma, Toyota. Please don't do that. No E, whatever. I just like one of my those things that just drives me crazy. Even like e-bikes. Why call them e-bikes? They're mopeds, really. They're motorized things with pedals. It's a moped. Okay.
I like the E. I like
you
E-bike.
like the E?
Yeah, why don't you like the E?
I don't
It's
just
easier to
because
like
it was used for like car things, like I can't think of a good example off the top of my head, but like the e-bug or the e whatever is okay. Enough already. Let's use your imaginations and try to come up with something like more
You have to
interesting.
come up with an entirely different name for a product that has brand recognition already.
True.
Like Tacoma is a very well-respected name in the medium-sized truck world. You wouldn't want to call it like the Toyota Zapper.
You
And
can call
like, people are like, "What's this?"
Well, Ford got it right with the Lightning.
BZ4T, it'll be.
Yeah,
Ford
but
got it.
it's F-150 Lightning. They could have just called it the E F-150. They call it the E Transit. What difference would it make? It just indicates that it's the electric one.
I mean, I would have taken off the F-150 part out of the Ford name myself personally.
Oh
Ford
no,
Lightning.
that would have been the worst
No,
decision
dumb.
businessly.
Okay.
What?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not a marketer, obviously.
And it is an F-150, so
Yes,
why
it
would
is.
you take
Yeah.
that away? It's not like
True.
it's like an F-150.
It's just like a
It's an
long-
F-150.
But you ever try to fit it in a headline though? It's like so annoying.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'll talk to Darren Palmer about that the next time we have a chat. Don would like you to drop the F-150. It's not
It
needed.
makes it hard to write a headline. It's true though. Sometimes, like when you're trying to like make a thumbnail for this show or write a headline, you have a limited number of spaces, right? And that's like one of the pressures. And electric vehicles tend to have like super long names sometimes, and it's like, oh my god, it's hard to be creative and inventive with headlines when you have like just 2 or 3 words left to make it, all come together. But that's a whole different thing. That's for another
Just
podcast.
go over the character limit like I do and have them mad at you.
Right. All right, let's move on. So it appears as if Hyundai is going to put the sensation of gear shifting into its end performance cars called an E-Shift. E-Shift.
There you go.
It's supposed to feel like the double clutch gearbox in the i30N, which I don't think we get that in the US. Kyle, what do you like about what do you think about this, and why is it a terrible idea?
Oh, thank you for already knowing. I think it's a terrible idea. So to simulate a dual clutch gearbox, right? This is not simulating a manual transmission,
Right.
like we saw Lexus show in a tweet, or who was it? One of the UK car mags posted a video of Lexus with a manual transmission. A dual clutch is an automatic transmission, just that basically has 2 different gear paths, 2 different clutches, and it can very quickly shift up and down the gearbox range. So what they're essentially implementing are torque dips throughout the acceleration profile of the vehicle. So they're artificially going to make it slower to give you a rougher acceleration feel. Now, in a combustion vehicle, it's really fun to feel things shift because there's a lot of torque going through these things, and you can feel the mechanical stress, and you have to have an engine that's capable of changing RPMs in such a short period of time, and that takes engineering excellence to make a engine that works very well with your gearbox to make a holistic powertrain. In the case of an electric motor, it's already inherently better from an acceleration standpoint because you can just retain max torque for longer. And so I don't think all of this is really freaking dumb. I don't understand it. Everyone is saying we want manual transmissions. We want to have fun while driving. Yes, we want all of that. Not in our electric cars. We want electric cars to be as pure and as fast as possible. And we want our combustion vehicles to be as pure and as fast as possible. And those take two very different technologies to make that happen. So yeah, let's not merge them. This is a dumb idea.
It's a bit like having the artificial sound in the cars. It's kind of a nice thing sometimes, but it's also nice to be able to turn it off, But if I'm doing like performance driving, I want to hear what all the wheels are doing. I want to hear what the suspension is doing. I want to,
Yeah, and you can still pick up a lot of this. A lot of the noise is just very faint in the background in these cars. Like Taycan does an okay job with the noise. I still turn it off. Right. I think BMW does a pretty bad job there. I mean, not into it. The real thing here is though, like, why? That's what I don't understand, because it's fun to shift manually in a combustion vehicle because you're maximizing the torque curve of your combustion engine. You have a small rev band as to which it can operate in a certain gear. It has different peaks and valleys depending on the engine, and it's really fun to optimize that. When you have an electric motor that can just produce a relatively flat torque curve, of course, it's not completely flat. You should just, inherently enjoy the benefits of that powertrain and not go backwards.
Tom, we know you like this idea though. You're gonna stick up for Hyundai.
Yeah, exactly. What a ridiculous idea. I mean, it's worse than artificial noise, in my opinion. The artificial noise, as you said, it's very easy to turn off. You can act like it's never there. Some people, like that just because they're getting that, that audible feedback. But this is doing nothing. It's fake. If it was really, a gearbox, I still would say personally, I don't think we need it. But if it was actually a gearbox, that's one thing. And as Martin's bringing up there, this is like the horsey horseless, which was, this fake horse head that people could buy back when cars first came out, 120 years ago, and they could attach it to the front of their horseless carriage. And it gave them that connection to the mode of transportation that they were used to for years. Whenever they were, going somewhere, they were used to seeing a horse head in front of them. That's it's just crazy. Yeah, there's like the patent application for it. I don't know if they actually like stuffed a real horse's head or just made like a wooden carving of one, but that's that was this is kind of like that. I mean, it's I just don't understand why car companies seem, and not just Hyundai. It really surprises me that Hyundai is doing this because they seem to get it and be one of the companies that gets this whole, electrification shift. But I don't know why so many companies seem to be interested in doing something that's while at the same time, all of them eliminated or came close to completely eliminating manual transmissions in their internal combustion engine vehicles. So, it's pretty crazy.
It's all focus group driven though, isn't it? They do research. People are like, oh, I want to shift. I want to hear the noise. We want to hear the natural noises those things make. And I'm the one who's, hashtag save the manuals. I love enthusiast sports cars that burn stuff for the weekends. And this doesn't solve that desire to drive something enjoyable.
I totally agree what Kyle just said there about the focus groups. The manufacturers rely on focus groups so often and too much. And you have to be careful because who are you focusing? It's so hard to pick a good cross section of your possible customers. And one of the best examples of that is when I was recently talking to Darren Palmer about the Ford F-150 Lightning. As a matter of fact, I have a video that's going to be coming out on that soon. One of the things that Darren talked about when I said, how could you guys get it so wrong as far as the demand for the Lightning? And initially they were only planning on making 40,000 Lightning a year out of the Rouge Center. And then they upped it to 80,000. Then they had to up it to 150,000. They still can't keep up with it. And, he's like, well, we did our focus groups and we talked to our customers. And they talked to F-150 customers and said, would you buy an electric F-150? And like probably 90% of them said, hell no, I won't. So they're like, oh, there's not a lot of people are going to want these. And, they got taken by surprise by the demand. So you got to watch out with these focus groups. They don't always focus on the right people.
That's yeah, right. That's the thing. You can have a focus group ask a lot of people, but if these people don't have like experience driving electric vehicles, maybe they don't know what they like.
Yeah. You don't know what you would want sometimes,
Right.
like
Yeah.
the famous thing about Henry Ford, and nobody's ever really proven that he said this,
Right.
though. But, the whole thing when they said, people asked him, did you ask your customers if they wanted cars? And he was like, hell no. If I asked them what they would want, they would say, build me a faster, stronger horse, and
Right.
because they couldn't even conceptualize what a horseless carriage would be like. And I think a lot of people that have driven EVs, gas cars their whole life, or that's the only thing they could gasoline or diesel, they can't really see an electric vehicle fitting into their life because it never has. And they're thinking the hassle about plugging it in and, oh, it's going to run out and it doesn't go anywhere when it's cold and the batteries die and it costs $100,000 to replace it. They're hearing all this noise on the internet, so they can't imagine that they would like an electric pickup truck. But, so that's why you got to watch out with those focus groups.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on, though. We don't want to beat a dead horseless carriage. Sorry. So just some other little Hyundai headlines. Excuse me. Sorry, Roman, if you're watching. So there's a whole bunch of little Hyundai headlines. I wanted to just run through a couple things. So Hyundai is building a big battery gigafactory in Georgia, just north of Atlanta, and they've selected the site. It's north of Atlanta, and it's going to be a big deal. $2.3 billion, no, $4 to $5 billion. That's right. It's like mega billions, and it's going to be huge. And right, and it'll supply the Hyundai plant in Georgia and probably the Kia one as well. And yeah, I just wanted to mention that they selected the site. That's where it is. And so also in the Ioniq 6 in the UK, Martin, you've got the prices for that now, but only with a big battery. Apparently, it's 46,745 pounds for the 77 kilowatt hour battery. How does that sound to you? It's already available. It's already sold out in Europe, in the mainland Europe at least, and the price is slightly different there, right?
53. Well, yeah, I don't know whether all the European prices are slightly different. 53,475. Yeah, that probably feels about right. 53 and a half. Yeah, that probably feels about right for this car. Big battery, all-wheel drive, top spec. So, no need to bring the small battery with this vehicle. Keep it premium. If you want to save $5 or $6 grand, then maybe this isn't the one for you, because then you start to have to talk about dual range figures as well, and people start quoting the shorter range. This car's all about efficiency and the big range. Right. So no, just do the big battery, just do the one big range number. WLTP will be a bit more friendly than EPA as well, and so that makes a lot of sense. Just do one big battery. Cheaper cars are something we all want to see, so I feel a bit bad saying don't bring the cheaper car. But no, I would only do the big battery version of this. As you guys know, I bought the small battery Kona. I'm not sure I talked about it on the podcast. I bought the small battery Kona, being of the opinion that everything has a use case, and we need to be more sophisticated and have a use case argument for everything. And then I sold it, and I now have the big battery Kona, because if you can get the range, you should get the range. It all works well in theory, but if you can get the range, have the range. So,
right. Now you can go to London and not have to worry about charging on the way, right?
Yeah, I did yesterday. So we've got a cold snap right now, which for us is cold. So -2, -3, -4 degrees Celsius.
28, 30 degrees in American freedom.
Yeah,
times.
and actually because it's been so dry, it's not been snowy or particularly icy, actually. It's been quite a nice cold. And I did London yesterday. So my house to London is exactly 100 miles on the nose, 99.8. And that's the point of the big battery Kona with this 300 miles of range, is that I got home yesterday with 50 something miles remaining. So that is, using a lot of seat heaters, rather than or driver only fan in the Kona rather than heating the whole cabin. So being a little bit sensible, I was on my own. If my wife family were with me, we'd have the full heating on full blast. So yeah, it's just that luxury of I pulled in to get a coffee halfway home and I charged, but I didn't need to. I think I put £2.30 in on grid serve. I think it's like 4 kilowatt hours or something. Literally run in and grab a coffee. But if you have a short range EV, you've got to charge. And then if all the charging stations are full, then all of a sudden you're getting home later than you want to and you're having a bad day. So yeah, it makes perfect sense. Stick the big battery in this. Only sell the big battery version. And leave the lower end of the market. No, this is not a low end car, but leave that for cars like the MG. So if people want to make a saving, then there are alternatives around, really good ones. But I would leave this with the big boy number.
In the Ioniq 5, it would be less expensive than this as well? Or
yeah, the Ioniq. Oh, I don't know what the current pricing of Ioniq 5 is because there's the new model year one. But we looked at that when it first came out. And yeah, I think it's a little bit cheaper, but not by much.
Not much, yeah. But speaking of range in Hyundai's cars, they're going to be getting better range and improved performance. So I didn't realize this because before we heard, I was pretty sure that I heard that the E-GMP platform used what do you call silicon
carbide?
Silicon carbide. Electronics in their inverters. But apparently they only use it on the rear motor.
Yes.
So the front motor is just a regular silicone one. So they're upgrading that to also be silicon carbide transistors.
Yeah. So that was 800 volts components on the rear axle. They are using 400 volt components on the front axle, on the rear, on the all-wheel drive. So this change doesn't affect the rear-wheel drive cars. And so who knows why that decision was made for reasons when the car came out. But now money, availability of 800 volt components. I don't know.
That's true, right? Availability is also a good point. You're on top of this, Martin.
So maybe they can get a better supply now. And so, yeah. And so greater efficiencies, greater range, greater charging speed. I don't know what I know the range figure was upped by. It's maybe 10 or 12 miles.
It's something. It was a nice something, a nice little.
Yeah,
boost.
like we'll take it. And then I'm not sure they actually detailed the charge speed improvements. If they did, I missed it.
I heard it was better, but
yeah, and they said it's an improvement, just more efficiencies in the energy conversion. So I love the fact that they're still making these cars, this platform, better as they can.
Right. I don't know. Thoughts about this, Kyle?
Nope. Martin summed it up perfectly.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, we can. There you go. A little picture on the screen here if you're watching us on the YouTubes or Twitch or Facebook. Yes, that's right. Power module. It's just a thing we don't know what it does. It's like an electronic thing. So anyway, other little headline. Moving away from Hyundai. Ultium cells factory in Tennessee to produce more battery cells. So the Ultium cells. That's the name of the Ultium battery business of GM, and they've had they have a few gigafactories announced that originally I think they were going to do like 35 gigawatt hours per year, and they've been edging that number upwards. So this one, which is in Tennessee, originally 35 gigawatts. Now they're looking at 50 gigawatts for just this factory alone. So I thought that was worth noting that GM is realizing that 35 is not going to cut it. They're going to need a lot more batteries, and to that end, they've also taken a loan from the U.S. Department of Energy. They finalized a $2.5 billion loan, to help them get this and the other gigafactory up and going. And that was part of that's interesting too. That was part of the the Advanced Technology Vehicles Manufacturing Program, the ATVM, which is, I believe, what the program that Tesla used like back in 10 years ago to get going, right? That's program still around. I think it was started by, I'm not sure if it was started by Bush or Obama. It was right in there somewhere. But it was created to help deal with the whole recession and everything, to kind of kickstart, automakers' technology. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts about this at all. Nope. Okay. Right. And other little bit of news and moving right along, Mercedes-Benz Vans announced a new EV dedicated plant in Poland. So usually I wouldn't talk about a Mercedes van plant in Poland, but this was going to be part of a deal with Rivian. But also this week, Rivian announced that it's pausing its electric van project that it was planning to do with Mercedes in Europe. I believe they were going to they're both work together and build a van on the Mercedes platform and then a van on the Rivian platform. But it looks like that's out the window now, and so Mercedes is just going to go it alone and build their plant in Poland. But it'll be EV dedicated vans, so that's cool. It's on the what is it? Oh, the van.ea architecture, electric architecture. Right. So I don't know if anyone probably doesn't want to say anything about that either, because it's I'm not sure anyone have any ideas or why Rivian might have backed out of this.
They're burning through cash.
Right.
It just seems weird.
They got to focus.
They only recently agreed to do that, right? I think it was only 3 months ago.
It was September,
So
yeah.
to make a switch in 3 months, it's kind of strange.
Yeah, and they signed a memorandum of understanding, MOU, which obviously has no binding value at all. So you can back away from it, but it's still it's a step that is recognized. People look at that and say, oh, and make decisions based on the expectation of a business plan coming together. But
it's got to be frustrating for the new startups, because Tesla's way of doing it was to promise the world and then deliver on a handful of things and then still not deliver on a bunch of stuff that's outstanding. But that got them through to profitability and wild success, and the others don't seem to do that, or can't seem to make it stick. Like so many announcements have been made, and a lot of them have been walked back by Tesla's competitors. Whereas with Tesla, nothing stuck for many years. There's obviously a bit of kickback these days because time's going on and promises aren't met. And people say it's not fraud, it's optimism, and the other car companies have sort of tried that. But, we're going to do all these amazing things. But yeah, a lot of them have been walked back, and I think I like that. By the way, I've talked for years on this show and my own podcast about how I really enjoy seeing really good basics done well, which the companies like I think Ford are doing that with the F-150 Lightning. They're making great vehicles. They're not talking themselves up too much. They've picked a few things like Ford Pro about trying to get the software right for when you're towing. They've picked a few things and they're going to work really hard on them, and a few vehicles like the e-Transit and the two new EVs coming to Europe as well. So that's what I like the most is when the car makers get their head down and get on with it and get the job done, which is what Rivian have to do. Rivian don't need to be making vans with Mercedes and all these things. They need to be making R1Ss and R1Ts. Oh, and Amazon vans, of course.
right, can't forget the Amazon vans.
Well,
that's the best part.
It's where the money came from, so they've got to make those first.
Right. All right. So other little bit of news, just moving right along. A couple of things. Lucid Air and Gravity SUV are going to be powered by Panasonic batteries. This is a change. Originally, at least for the Air, I think Lucid had said that they were going to work with LG exclusively on the batteries for the Lucid Air, or at least one of the trims, like the main trim. But now
Lucid had two battery suppliers, didn't they?
They may have, but I mean,
Didn't
for
they?
just like they at one point, I just remember reading in this article that we had up that they had some sort of exclusivity thing with LG, but I think it was just on one version of one trim level of the Air.
Okay.
So yeah, they could be working with other people, but yeah, they're definitely moving, getting into business with Panasonic now for batteries and 2170 cells. And we have that article up on Inside EVs. You can look at the more details in there. But moving over to Tesla land, we want to talk about this a little bit. Tesla Model Y gets track mode as part of a holiday update. So this holiday update is kind of a big deal. I don't know. Did you get this on your Model 3? Kyle?
Oh, no, neither the Model 3 or Model S got the update. I actually wanted to bring this up because I think it's a pretty interesting situation.
Okay.
Brand new Model S and X, we'll get into Model Y in just a second, can actually play Steam games now.
Right.
So we had a cool game that I'm not the biggest gamer, and I mean, like, I don't game at all, but
Right.
I think it's a pretty neat situation that the car can turn into a gaming console. So just yesterday, I received a message from actually probably the only game I'm interested in. It's called Beam NG. They reached out and they said, hey, when you get this on your car, can you load it up and see if this works? It's like a car simulator situation. And
okay. How do you say the name again? Sorry.
Beam.ng, just like a wood beam.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty cool game. I like it quite a bit. And so, yeah, as soon as my Model S gets it, I'm going to shoot probably a little video with their stuff in there, which will be kind of neat to try out. Tesla's really just doing so many great things. Dog mode now, you have the internal camera. So when you throw the car in dog mode, you can watch the inside of your cabin. It also pops up with a little message on the screen saying, hey, the in-cabin camera is on. So you're not sneaking on your passengers. I think that's pretty smart.
That's good.
Model Y getting track mode 3 years overdue. There's no excuse for that. That's a bit of a shame, but finally we have it, and we'll do a video on that, of course. What else did I have? Oh, also some Tesla news that I think is worth mentioning. Tesla released in their next version of their owner's manual, it looked like a Model Y with more performance-oriented suspension with a remote reservoir on the damper. And so this is super neat. I was tagged in a tweet on it the other day, something to keep our eyes on, that perhaps we're going to see spicier, more performance-oriented versions of 3 and Y coming out with this refresh happening in the new year. We already know they're working on a refresh here. We know they need more power because Ioniq 5N, EV6 GT, these are cars with significantly more power than Model 3 and Model Y launching. And they just need a bump. So I think we're going to see a full holistic package upgrade. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a more hardcore version of Model 3 or Y, probably Model 3. I'd love to see. I still think they need to put a plaid drivetrain in the Model 3. It would just be the end all be all. But yeah, check this out. Games in the Model S. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it doesn't change my life at all. I don't game. I don't watch YouTube on my screen. I don't do any of that stuff. It's cool that the car gets better, though.
Right. And you can hook up a keyboard and mouse and play with a keyboard and mouse if you like to, which is how I play and Steam is like the platform. So Steam is like the big deal here, I think, for the holiday update, as far as unless you're a Model Y owner and like track mode. Because that opens up. So Steam is like an online publisher of games, and they have like a library of thousands of games to choose from, and most of the good ones. So this really transforms. You had a nice selection of games before on the model on the Teslas, but this just, man, there's so many games.
I wonder how many people will actually use this. I don't think very many, but it is cool.
Right. I mean, really, it's like if you're charging on a trip, maybe I guess you could then, I don't know. I heard there's going to be they have dual processors coming up. They're going to be upgrading to dual processors. So this is going to be like a next gen kind of gaming console. So people might want to like sit in their car and game instead of like their TV. Maybe I don't know. But
maybe
some people are like that. Anyway, anything else on that Steam update? I think, Martin, you were mentioning yesterday that Tesla's bringing back 10,000 free supercharger miles to juice up the end of the year sales. Yeah. So they already are giving new Tesla owners or Tesla buyers in December the $3,750 cashback thing they would get from the government if they waited till January. So that's already, in a sense of, taking away that whatever block to keep them from buying their cars before the end of the year. So Tesla generally has an end of the year push to get those sales up at the end of the fourth reporting quarter. But 10,000 free supercharger miles, I don't know.
Well, it equals about $1,000 worth of value. So if you buy an inventory car, you get the $3,750 plus the $1,000 of supercharging. If they said it was unlimited charging for 2 years, like they did when I bought my Model 3 back in 2019, came unlimited supercharging for 2 years. That might throw more people over the edge. The problem is, it sounds like these cars will qualify for the full $7,500 tax credit going into next year. So why would you buy it now?
Yeah, it's 70. It depends on where the minerals are sourced from next year.
They've
though,
said
right?
Tesla have been the only one to come out and say our cars, not all of them, some of our cars will get the full 7,500, and I'm just so bemused about this situation. We are weeks away now from the start of the new year. At automotive conference this week, maybe the end of last week, Mary Barra was on stage, and she said, "We're just waiting to hear back from the, I don't know, like the finance department or whatever it is, like the Treasury Department, on the final rules." And I thought, what? How is the US in this situation where you're 2 weeks away from the new year? Car buyers don't know if hey, I'd like to buy a new car. Do I get a discount? The dealers are saying, I don't know. The CEO of the car companies are going, we don't know. Like, we're waiting to hear from the Treasury Department. Tesla are the only ones that I think have overtly come out and said full 7,500 on some of our cars. I don't even know which ones. It seems a mess to me.
I think we won't even know until deep into next year, to be honest, Martin.
You're right. I think you're right.
In January. It's not like January 1, here's the cars that qualify. I think it's going to drag on. And you know what? People don't file their taxes until the following year anyway. So it's not like the biggest deal. But people do make buying decisions off of these numbers and leave it to the U.S. government to make a mess of it.
It's a huge mess. And if I knew I was getting effectively $7,500 off a new Tesla, that would absolutely make me hold on for 2 more. Would I like one now? Yes. Would I like the money more? Absolutely. I can wait 2 weeks. So no, free supercharging miles isn't going to do it. We've seen a series of incentives. There's been some insurance incentives, price reductions. I think 3 price reductions now in China. And so you can spin it 2 ways. You can say there's no demand for Teslas, or you can say that they are so good at making vehicles that they've got too many, and that they've ultimately got lots of margin, and they make more money per car than other car makers, and they can always reduce that a little bit and reduce the price. So there's no doubt that, particularly in China, in Shanghai, they're just in beast mode right now, and they're going to shut down for a week. Oh, they half denied the story between Christmas Day and New Year's Day. And again, spin that 2 ways. They're shutting down for a week because there's no demand, or they're shutting down a week to make further improvements and to take another leap up. So, over 1 million vehicles a year out of Shanghai is just utterly stunning.
That is.
So let me ask you this. Now, I know it seems like it's everybody's opinion that the companies don't know if they're waiting on information from the government. It's we don't know what's going to qualify. What if they do know? What if they know exactly which vehicles are going to qualify, but they just don't want to tell us, and they're blaming it on saying, "Oh, we need to hear back from the government." These companies know exactly where all the minerals are sourced for their EVs. They know where the battery components are made. They know what's going to qualify and what's not. I just think they don't want to tell us yet because they, like you said, they're afraid that the people that are going to wait for that tax incentive next year. I think we're going to find out relatively soon after the new year exactly who qualifies and who doesn't. I don't think it's going to be dragged on that long. I hope at least. But let's see.
But that's the confusion over why Tesla have been so clear on, we know we qualify.
Well, they do different. They do something different than everybody else, Martin. Let's face it.
I mean, they do have. They have
the batteries here with Panasonic, but then GM also has their Ultium plant up and running. And
but
EV batteries are made in Michigan.
Yeah, but Tesla have had raw materials turning up in Nevada for 10 years plus. Like that's the bit of the business that never really gets talked about. They've had truckloads of raw materials turning up at Giga Nevada for probably on 10 years now. And it's a JV with Panasonic, but Tesla have a deeper understanding of making batteries than any of the other car makers.
Sure.
They've all got partnerships. They've all got partnerships, but no one's been doing this for 10 years like Tesla's been doing. And they don't hide it, but they don't really talk about it very much.
GM's been testing and working with batteries like for over 10 years. They have a huge, battery complex basically.
Sure, and they should know where all of those various bits are not only mined but processed, and that's the important
That's
thing.
the other thing.
You can mine them wherever you want in the world, but if you then stick them on a ship to China for processing and then ship them back to the US, all of a sudden it's not, as far as I know, that then falls outside.
And it was my understanding
the-
pretty much all the lithium is processed in China, right? Is there any other...
90 something percent lithium is processed in China, yeah.
Right. So,
And you know, as far as Tesla saying their vehicles qualify, how many of the Tesla vehicles qualify under the price?
Oh, yeah, of course.
oh, right.
I
That's
think
the other...
Model 3 and Model Y definitely do.
Yeah.
Even the top spec versions.
Okay.
Model X does not.
Definitely not if you get like full self-driving and things like that. That'll push.
Oh, yeah.
Model Y, it does, I believe. Model S and X don't qualify at all, but Model Y should, right? Because isn't it 80,000 for SUVs?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah,
If
and
that-
so you
if-
Model
can't
Y.
spec a Model Y up to 80. I think you can get high 70s.
Model Y qualifies under $80,000. Alex Mon says. Yeah.
I just find it hard to believe that the car companies at this point don't know exactly where their
Right.
winners are being sourced, where their components are made, and what's going to qualify and what doesn't. I just think they just don't want to tell us.
I mean, they probably have a very good idea, but maybe they want the official government seal, stamp of approval, and make it official so that they can, I don't know what if they have some sort of why they have reservations about making that public. I don't know, but they could have good reasons. We don't know. Maybe. I don't know. So, but Kyle, speaking of all this Tesla stuff, you did a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and I should have talked about this last week. But you tried to get some full self-driving on your Plaid. So you own a Tesla Model S Plaid, and you want full self-driving, a subscription, so you can check out that technology and stuff. And you paid money for it, right? But do you have it?
Nope. I guess it's a pretty, the Tesla fans say it's a simple software thing. In my eyes, I saw a tweet from Elon that said, "Hey, it's open. If you want FSD beta, anyone who pays for it will get it."
Right.
Paid for it, subscribed to it. I didn't write the check for 15 grand, just paid, I don't know, a couple $100, something like that.
Sure.
And it's still weeks later, no availability on my car. And the reason is I'm on too new of a software version than the older versions to actually get it. And so I'm waiting for the next big update to FSD beta to hit. Maybe that will come with the holiday update. I'm not totally sure. I'm not like in the weeds on Tesla software updates. And then hopefully my car will get it. But I just want to play around with it. Like, I think it's super neat technology. I think if you use it properly, it's okay. I think too many people abuse the system. We've had that conversation at length on this show. But I want to have it. I want to have some access to it, especially now that apparently anyone can get it. But there's a ton of people in my situation, not just me, that saw the tweet. They update their cars as soon as an update comes out. I'm updating my car, and just on too new of a version for me to go back, I guess, to get FSD.
So how long have you had FSD? How long have you been paying for FSD?
Don't know the exact.
Like it must have been. It feels like it's a month at least, right?
No, I don't think we've hit a month yet. I think we're at 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that.
Okay, I just feel like.
But I get some benefit. I get lane changes. I've been driving the car. I've been doing Denver runs a lot in it, so it automatically changes lanes. That's really the only benefit. It does have summon. I haven't tried it yet. A few of my older Teslas, I've had the summon feature on, and never used it either. But
right. I mean, I'm curious about the summon if it's seen an improvement. I believe last time I mentioned it, y'all said it hadn't seen any improvements. Which is
I should play around with it. Actually, I don't know. I just haven't spent the time to really dig into it.
I think
I'm just waiting for the big update.
If you make an interesting video with this, that could be, because no one's been talking about it for a long time. So if you do something interesting, you could get like 1 million views. Who knows?
I don't think so.
You know the YouTube business better than I do. I don't know.
Well, yeah, and honestly, Tesla content. There's so many Tesla creators out there that I think we produce enough Tesla content to piss off the people who hate Tesla, and so that's a good area to stay in. But we don't want to go full Tesla fanboy.
Right. So, but I also wanted to mention this whole FSD thing. It's not just you that's going to get it kind of, screwed over, I guess would be a good term.
I don't know. I mean, just annoyed with it.
Annoyed. Okay. So, but this guy had to sued Tesla and won. So he has a car and he wanted to, the script he started. So the Tesla offered the subscription version of FSD, $199 a month. So he paid that, but his car didn't have. They also wanted to charge him like $1,100 to upgrade his car. Because it which was given to people free if they bought FSD. The computer got upgraded for free. But if you're just,
this is on an older Tesla.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
the new ones don't need any upgrades.
It's a Tesla Model 3, I believe he said. So it's not that old.
No, but it could be 2.5, an early one that needs to get updated to 3.0.
Right, but they wanted to charge him to do the update.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
and then he sued him and won, so he doesn't have to pay anymore.
That's right.
That's
he still has. I mean, they're going to upgrade his computer, and he'll still pay for his monthly FSD, whatever, if he wants. But his car will be able to actually use FSD.
Yeah.
It's all, I don't understand it.
Well, I don't know how much more news you have, but I have a couple Rivian pieces that I'd like to just bring up because there's some big news going on in the Rivian world this week.
Okay.
The first being the announcement of their holiday update, more or less. I know we have a lot of Rivian owners. It's 2022.47 is the update. The big news for me in a lot of cold weather states is actually snow mode is coming. So really looking forward to trying this out and having some fun with this. We'll actually be getting the car out on some frozen lakes here into the new year and playing around with that on studded tires, which will be super cool. So looking forward to that. You can finally turn on the heated seats, heated steering wheel, and defrost from the mobile app. So reaching parity with Tesla there, which is really great. And just a whole bunch of little small improvements. They do a really good job of telling you every single little improvement, which is great. The one I'm really looking forward to actually is the improved ride quality with updated suspension settings.
Yes.
And they say that you'll actually get a improved handling capability in stiff ride mode and even softer ride in soft ride mode. I think that's really, really a big deal. Moving on from that, just quickly, Rivian is teasing their dual motor drivetrain setup. Again, right now they use a 4-motor system from Bosch with independent controls, which I've been less than favorable of, especially in my truck. I think it's quite clunky. I don't think you can get the power to the correct wheels. It's great under certain situations, and but not perfect. So here it looks like we'll have a dual motor system with actual differential lockers finally, and we can actually see some interesting things going on here. RJ tweeted out or Instagram post some oversteering action, some sand action, the vehicle going through a huge undulation. Looks like it might be out at Moab. Interestingly, when it picked up a front wheel, it actually locked that front wheel, which indicates it may not actually have a physical locker on the front axle. It might be doing locking by brake force distribution, a virtual locker, if you will, on the front. But I would imagine the rear to have a physical locking differential. So that is just a really, really big deal. In my opinion, we should see improved efficiency, improved thermal performance, and really an in-house designed motor. I think this is the drivetrain they've wanted to go for all along. They just couldn't develop it in time with the truck. So really looking forward to this.
It's going to be a little less super truckish with that drivetrain and like on the road as far as like acceleration or whatever. But
you think so?
I think so. Yeah, I would expect the two motors to be a little, because it puts about 800 horsepower now or something like that.
Yeah, 835, 840. Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, maybe I'm swayed, but the truck really isn't like mind-blowingly fast as is. Like, there's room for an R1TR, if you will. There's definitely a few more 100 horsepower they could throw into that thing if they wanted to. The last and most important update on the Rivian side, sorry to go full Rivian crazy, but it's just pretty important, is that they've actually raised their range figures and quite significantly, actually. So now a maximum range of 328 miles EPA on the R1T. We've run R1T and R1S side by side. Actually, we just put up a video yesterday on that. They have pretty much identical efficiency in all of our tests. However, the R1S is slightly less, which is a little bit surprising. So the truck has a bit better efficiency. It's longer, rides better. I think it's the one to go for. But some people just want an SUV, and I think R1S rocks. So now on the 20-inch wheels, you can get 289 mile EPA, 21-inch wheel 328, and the 22-inch wheel 303. The big question is, did they retest the trucks or did they increase battery capacity? And that we don't know. We don't know if our older trucks will get the bump because of, hey, they just reran the tests and they're, a little bit more efficient on newer software from HVAC performance, because we have seen them do HVAC performance increases, and that's a part of the EPA testing that they run through. So not sure if it's efficiency or they're just squeezing open the battery pack. Just recently, I think we're finding out the battery pack's probably around 140 something kilowatt hour gross. It's about 125 usable. So there is room for them to start opening this thing up and improving it. So yeah, looking forward to diving into that situation. But yeah, there's the Rivian updates for you.
Right on. I like that video of you guys last night, I think, and Alyssa followed you. So you had the SUV and the pickup truck both on 20s. Just the only difference really between them was the wheels were slightly different.
Sadly, yes.
Same,
I really
same
wish
size,
we could
but
wish we could have had the same wheels, but we actually thought that the R1S had the more aerodynamic 20-inch wheel
that's
option,
what I thought too, looking at them.
and it still came in under the R1T.
Right, and you had Alyssa following you in the 22-inch wheels with your R1T.
Yep.
And it wasn't as efficient as one would expect.
Well, only because I think we had stuff in the bed, because technically
That's
the
true.
22s always do better than the 20s in efficiency.
Oh, that's right too. That's right. You
Mhm.
had stuff in your bed. You had 3 or 4 tires in the back there, and
Yeah,
the
it's
other
just an
one,
aero situation, I think.
right?
On,
And the
on
other one,
our-
you had the tunnel cover closed, so that makes a big
Right.
aero improvement on pickup trucks.
Yeah, our truck wasn't meant to be a part of the test, but we're like, since it's
Right.
here, let's reference it. We've
Right.
run 20-inch, 21, and 22-inch wheel R1T all side by side on the same day. That's another video we have alive. And really, the 21-inch is the most range as you would expect. 22 very close, and then the 20s were very inefficient in comparison.
Right on. So, Tom, do you want to talk about your Lightning factory tour?
So, yeah, I mean, not a whole lot to talk about it. I did
Right.
get a chance to go to Ford's Rouge Electric Vehicle Center this week. I went there, about a year and a half ago. I think it was in the summer of 21, when they were just kind of finishing up pouring concrete, and they were bringing some robots in, but it was a big empty shell. And now it's operational. This is where Ford makes the F-150 Lightning. The factory is dedicated entirely to F-150 Lightning. When it originally opened, it was 500,000 square feet. They're now adding on both ends of the factory. So it's a big rectangle in the middle, and then on both ends, they're expanding the factory, and it's going to be 850,000 square feet total. So getting close to 1 million square feet.
Yep.
Ford they won't tell us their current run rate. They're just saying that they will get up to 150,000 per year run rate by early fall of next year. And their original plan was to get to that by the end of 2023. So it seems to me like they've pushed up reaching their 150,000 annual run rate by about 3 months. And the way they may have done that was they just added a third shift.
Right.
So now they have 3 10-hour shifts working, pumping out the Lightning as fast as they can. They're trying to get caught up to the demand. They still aren't taking orders. Like, new customers can't put in a reservation. They stopped accepting reservations a year ago after
Wow.
they hit close to 200,000 reservations. And I mean, I think it was, probably the right decision to stop taking reservations when they knew they were at least 2 years in the weeds at that point.
Yeah.
So why continue to let
Right.
people get in line, in more than 2 years in advance? But I think we're expecting them to open up reservations sometime in the spring again, now that they'll be getting closer to hitting that 150,000 annual run rate. So I shot some video. I'm going to put these all together. I haven't had a chance to yet, and do like a little video update of the before and after, because I have some video clips when I was there a year and a half ago, and like standing in the same places, and there was nothing, and now boom, there's this robot here, putting together Lightning, and it was pretty cool. It's it was nice to see them making the vehicles there.
They do everything there too at Rouge. They do make the body in whites there as well.
Yeah, that's everything for Lightning, and
Okay.
they have all these automatic vehicle carriers.
Yeah,
as you
they're
can see,
huge.
this is riding on. So about 90% of the time, the vehicles on the line, they're being carried by these electronic vehicles, and there's automatic recharging strips in the path where they ride. So
Nice.
they have contactless charging
Inductive.
as they're moving down the line. And at certain stations where they have to stop at a station to perform work, that's when it's being charged. So these things can just keep going. And that's the end of the line there. You see the picture we have up. That's where there's DC fast chargers. The cars have to be plugged in for about 20 minutes because they want them to leave the factory at 60% state of charge. So they can get to about 60% state of charge in 20 minutes.
That's pretty good.
That's super neat. Tom, what was the purpose of this visit? Because I saw Zach's from Jerry Rig Everything was there. There was a few other media as well. What was the story of the trip? It seems super cool.
Yeah, it really, there's these media trips that they have big information, and then there's sometimes they invite you on media trips. I think sometimes they just have extra budget and they're like, oh, why don't we get everybody out here and we'll show them some things. I think it was to talk about the fact that they added the third shift and to show people the Lightnings being produced now in the factory. The last time we had this tour, they weren't producing them. And then we also had a tech deep dive, which was a round table of all Ford's top tech people talking about the next generation platform that they're going to be doing, and how they're they understand that the interaction between the vehicle and the consumer is really like the next premium of automotive, and that they're working hard to be a top player in that range. They're not going to let the startups that are tech companies, without saying Tesla, own that space. That they have a whole team. They brought in a whole bunch of people from all these different companies, and they're putting together the next generation platform for all their vehicles. And so I think it was more of end of year, and they also had their annual Christmas party that they invited all of us to. And the crazy thing is, I had something to do the next day, so I was the only one that didn't stay. And everyone, Bill Ford, everyone was at the Christmas party, but I took off right before the party started. But Brandon got invited because he lives in Detroit. He wasn't at this Lightning and Tech Talk thing that I was, but they invited him to the Christmas party because as I was leaving, I looked at all the name tags and I saw that he was going to be going to it. So I got to ask him. How fun it was. But
super cool. I'm so jealous you got to go see the factory and everything. That just seems like one hell of a trip. I mean, that's something no one gets to see, these types of vehicles getting built down the line. That's really incredible. Did you happen to film a video of the whole thing, or
I have a whole bunch of video clips that I'm going to put together, Kyle.
Good. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. I haven't had a chance to do that yet, but I'm going to put that together. And while we're talking about Ford, let's briefly touch on the price increase. So I've noticed there's a lot of comments in the, another price increase.
I missed that.
Now, it's only the Ford Pro with the standard range battery pack got this price increase, and it's another $4,000. So now we're looking at $56,000 for the base standard Ford Pro with the standard range battery. When you think about it, it's a 40% price increase from the original $40,000. I mean, that's an insane amount of a price increase. We talk about 8%, 10%, 40% more than it was just, months ago. The thing about that, the interesting, and Ford really dropped the ball on this, in my opinion. I mean, this was just terrible how they just keep doing these price increases. I understand the whole industry is in the grips of a supply chain nightmare. But the way Ford is dealing with it with the Pro has just been terrible. And the thing about it that's interesting is, people have said, and Kyle and I have probably as much as anybody said, it's stupid cheap. Like, we don't understand how Ford could sell this for $40,000. That's why I say that the Tesla will never sell a Cybertruck for $40,000. GM is not going to sell a Silverado for $40,000. It's just not going to happen, even though everybody announced that price. But the way Ford has done this with this, to just keep hitting you, for crying out loud, just come out, raise the price and say, guys, we made a mistake. We priced it wrong. That in combination with the supply chain problems, here's the new price. So I just hope this is the last one for a long time, because it's really Ford's got a lot of egg on their face with this.
Right. Yeah, I think this like you saying the Silverado EV is not going to be $40,000. Maybe we'll see, but I don't think it's going to be that much more either. I think Ford's giving GM just opening the door crack for them to put their foot in and really grab their own chunk of the electric pickup market. Maybe
Well, Tom, let me cut you off for 1 second.
Sure.
Why do you say you don't think it's going to be that much more? It's got a 200 kilowatt hour battery pack. Okay, well, maybe they'll have the smaller battery pack, I guess, for a standard range. But even if it's 100 kilowatt hours, okay, what 100 kilowatt hour EV that's out there today is $40,000?
Right. No, I know.
So, I mean, I don't know how a company could sell a vehicle with such a big battery. We know what these batteries cost at anywhere under $50,000. I just don't know how they could possibly do that.
Right. No, I think $40,000 is kind of ridiculously cheap as well for the Silverado, but maybe it won't be. Maybe it'll go up in price, but it's not going to go up in price nearly as much as the Ford. I don't know. We'll have to see how this plays out. I just think that GM's got the pricing, the scale all worked out ahead of time.
Everybody has a plan until they get
Right.
punched in the face, and Ford got punched in the face by the supply chain, problem.
Sure.
I'm sure they had it all worked out too, Dom. And if you're GM, why would you leave $10,000 on the table? If Ford's selling their base Pro at $56,000, why would you sell one at $46,000? If you really want to undercut them, sell it at $52,000, undercut them by $4,000. But it's not going to be more than that. I'm telling you, it's folly if you think it's more than that. And watch, it will be less than that. And you guys will replay this video.
We should make a bet.
If it's not, I also want you to replay the video because
Okay.
there's no way they would leave that much money on the table. They'll sell every one they could make. So
Right.
So why not charge people what the market's willing to pay?
It's a fair point. It's a fair point, and that's a great business decision. And you may very well be right. It sounds about right. I would say if they were smart, they would underprice it by not too much, like $4,500 if they can get that kind of, if they can produce it cheap enough to still make a profit with that kind of undercutting. I think that's fine, but they don't like.
You'd be good at running a nonprofit. Okay,
right.
Let's leave it at that.
Okay. So also,
also, Dom, you always believe the best in people, and that's why we love you, because
I
you
am
are.
naive, yes.
You're an optimist, and you see, you want people to be telling the truth.
You
but
think these companies want to help people? All they want to do is wring as much money out of us as possible.
I just think that they, and I think that they.
I do.
That's their job, to make money for their shareholders.
I do get the
money
mercenary
out
aspect
of
business. I get that, and I could be. No, I can't. I'm not a
No,
business
you
person.
can't. You can't be cutthroat.
I can't. I had to sell my car to like a huge company because I couldn't ask like an individual to pay that much money. I'm bad at selling things.
Oh, and by the way, thank you for the comments last week when Dom floated the idea of maybe buying another Spark. And we all reacted, obviously. And that was noted in the comments last week of people going, yeah, please don't do that. Please buy a Bolt.
Yeah, I won't be buying a Spark. I really enjoyed it, but
But no, go buy a Bolt.
I wish the Bolt was as fun to drive as the Spark. Let's just leave it at that. That's all.
The Bolt's a great fun car to drive.
If you want something cheap and fun to drive to save money, just buy like a $2,000 Miata.
Yeah.
Is there such a thing as a $2,000
Have a weekend
Miata?
car.
Yeah, I mean, used to be in pre-COVID times. Maybe now it's $5,000 for a Miata.
Right.
But like that's going to give you all the smiles. You can drive it 1,000,000 miles, and you'll still be under the cost of a Bolt.
I can't get my guitar in the trunk of a Miata.
Sure,
I
you
learned.
can. Just put it in the passenger seat.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. While we're talking about F-150 Lightning things, Tom, too, you mentioned you wrote up an article about a YouTuber who's not pleased with the winter range on his F-150 Lightning, and you wrote a great rebuttal to his video. I don't know if you wanted to tell us about that just briefly. What's your time? Yeah, briefly.
Yeah, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but I'll give a quick overview. Now, first of all, I don't like going after, per se, other content creators. I think everybody should be able to do and say what they want on their channels. And there's plenty of videos out there of people showing that electric vehicles don't do as well in the cold weather. But this one just rubbed me the wrong way. So I kind of took it and analyzed it a little bit. And the thing is, Hoovie's Garage, they bought an F-150 Lightning a couple of months ago. He made a few videos on it. And right in the beginning, he said, we're just going to make some videos and sell this thing and, maybe sell it for a profit. And so now he just put out a video saying the range is so bad that I had to sell it. And, he was already planning on selling it before. So then he did a quick video of how he made like a 62-mile drive and the range went like cut in half, and which we all know that range is less in the winter. My Lightning was showing on average when it was fully charged like 290 miles of estimated range when it was warm out. And I drove it more than 300 miles many a times, but let's just go on the range estimator. And now that we're down in the 20s here, it's showing like estimated 225. So yeah, I've lost like 25, maybe 30% range, somewhere in that range. That's to be expected. But his video showed like a more than, or at least a 50% range reduction. And so I was watching the video and he's on the highway, and I noticed his trip meter shows he's averaging 1.1 miles per kilowatt hour. And he said he's going 75. He showed he's going 70 miles an hour on the highway, and but there was a headwind and all this stuff, and he talked about how it was it's terrible and it's unacceptable. And, I have a lot of experience driving my Lightning now, and I'm on the highway and I speed. Kyle will tell you that. I got a heavy right foot. And so I went out on the highway and I said, I want to see if I can average 1.1 miles per kilowatt hour. And I had to drive like a sustained 90 miles an hour for it to go.
Allegedly.
Right.
In Mexico.
I wasn't on public roads, Kyle.
Oh, great. Oh, perfect.
That's fine. That's fine.
So he represented that this is just a normal drive over to the shop and back. I'm going 70, 75 miles an hour. I didn't do anything wrong, but look at this. It's horrible. And, so I am certain that there was something else going on there that, I don't know what. Was he driving faster than he said? Was he really stomping on it? But so then just this week, actually, when I went to Detroit, I had to drive to Newark Airport, which is about 40 miles from my house. So I get on the highway, I reset the trip. I set the Blue Cruise to 77 miles an hour, faster than what he said. And at this point, there's a 12-mile headwind that I have. He said 15 to 20 miles, so he had a little more wind. I set it, and I drove all the way to Newark Airport, and it was bouncing between 1.5 and 1.6 miles per kilowatt hour, not the 1.1 that it showed when he was driving. So that kind of confirmed to me, and it was colder. When he was doing it, it was 37 degrees. And when I was driving, it was 28 degrees. And I left the truck out of the garage overnight, cold soaked it, didn't do anything. And so I'm averaging somewhere between 1.5, 1.6 at 77 miles an hour driving into a headwind. So that just confirmed to me that, it's for entertainment, his channel when he does this stuff. You can't rely on it. But the problem is, a lot of people, look at this and say, oh my God, look how horrible it is. You lose 50% of your range. It's completely unusable. That's just not the case. You do lose range in the winter. There's things you can do to mitigate that. You could plug it in, you could precondition, you can use the seat heater and the steering wheel heater less than the cabin heat. There's things you could drive a little bit slower. I mean, you could drive 65 instead of 75, and that actually makes a big difference when it's cold. But in any event, this just rubbed me the wrong way. So I made a response video to it and just pointed out some of the reasons why I don't think that it was legitimate the way he did that, because I can't get my truck to be as inefficient as he was able to driving it normally. So
and it's not,
that's why I did it.
And it wasn't just you either. We had a F-150 Lightning owner in the comments, I believe, also said he was driving his like 80 miles an hour and above, and he was getting the same kind of efficiency as you, like 1.5, 1.6.
Yeah. I mean, Hoovie must have been stomping on it. I mean, to get it to average 1.1 miles per kilowatt hour, that's like Kyle on a track.
He's not here to. He's not here to defend himself. We can't. We don't know. I don't know. Who knows?
I'm a huge Hoovie fan, by the way.
Kyle's
absolutely
I don't know if he's.
Love his stuff, but
I've seen his stuff. It's fun, but
it's the best. It's my favorite YouTube channel. I love Hoovie and his channel. He's not a car tester, and he has a big platform. And electric cars are hard to understand when you're dealing with guessometer range numbers versus rated range calculations.
Yeah.
It's hard for people to wrap their head around this. For example, our e-tron is charged to 70% right now. It's only showing 100 miles of range, which is crazy. But we've been running with the heater on high from here to Starbucks, from here to the hub, from here. And they're 3-mile trips. If we were to jump on the highway and let everything come up to temperature, we'd have that initial spike and then it would even out. The e-tron doesn't do predictive, eventually the heater's not going to run at 7 kilowatts going down. So it's hard for people to understand these concepts. And the thing is, however, I don't think we should totally discount Hoovie here and not to be totally defending him. This is how normal people will view the trucks. They're going to look at these numbers. They're not educated for many of them in the EV world. I think it's a very customer representative view of the vehicle, which is, holy crap, they're big. They don't hold that much energy. And when it gets cold and you have a headwind, you drive fast, you don't get that much range. And that's how people will see it.
Right.
I agree with you with that regard, that you don't get as much range. But the sticking point, Kyle, that made me pick this up was, I don't believe what he represented is truthful. I don't believe you could take that truck and drive a 64-mile round trip like he did, mostly on the highway at the speeds he said he drove, and have a 1.1 miles per kilowatt hour average consumption. I don't think it's possible. So if you believe me in that premise, then the whole video is a lie. Do the truth. Go out and drive 75 miles an hour and say, look, it lost 33% range. And you're truthful, and that's great, but it didn't represent truth. Okay. That's what I had a problem with.
I see your problem. Makes sense.
I hadn't heard of him till I saw that he was making electric car videos. So I didn't know who the guy was. He doesn't, translate to sort of, hasn't got a sort of a UK fan base, I suppose, but clearly very popular. And I watched the original Lightning towing video and I watched his back catalogue and I really enjoyed it. And then after a few videos, I realized that literally all his videos are, I bought the cheapest fill in the blank in America. And then he takes it to a dude on a ramp, and they get it up, and he's like, "You got rust here," and da da da. He's like, "Oh my god, I'm such an idiot." And he plays the fool, and he's not. He's a really smart guy. And I was like, "Oh, I like the videos. They're really good, and you can binge them." And he's a great presenter and clearly a very talented producer. But then maybe just the ones that I watched, they were basically all the same, which is, I've made a daft decision. I'm such a klutz. He's not right. I stopped watching in the end thinking, this dude's Columbo. He's not walking around in a trench coat going, I'm so confused. Just one more thing. These electric cars, he's a smart guy. He knows exactly what he's doing with electric cars, and he's got a wildly popular YouTube channel. Oh, and he has shots of his house and stuff. He has a very nice house and collection of cars. So, you got to get that December CPM money in, my friend. You got to get that YouTube money in December because you're going to make some money. So I don't think that what he's doing here is particularly aimed at electric cars. I just think that's his act. His act is, I'm such a doofus. Oh, I can't believe electric cars. He clearly knows a lot about cars, and you can't be that intelligent and not understand how EVs work. He's a car guy, so he gets EVs lose their range. He knows that. And so it seemed off to me. I agree with Tom. It seemed off. It seemed like Top Gear. Remember when Tesla sued Top Gear for writing the script before filming the show, and the script said the Roadster breaks down or runs out of battery, and Tesla sued them in the UK, and Top Gear successfully the BBC successfully defended that program by saying it's not an automotive journalist show. It's not factual entertainment, it's an entertainment show, and they won the case, and Tesla lost that because they argued that Clarkson and back in that era of Top Gear, it's an it's a scripted entertainment show. Like, that series was planned out. They knew they were going to make the Roadster run out of electric and go, we're so stupid. No,
Now
so
we pushed it now. Yeah.
now we're pushing it back. That was all in the script, and they did nothing wrong because it's pure entertainment. And this guy, I love his videos. It's just pure entertainment, but it's not really automotive journalism. The ones that I watched, he might also be a great writer or whatever, and I've not experienced that side of it. So it didn't seem too underhand. He seems like a good businessman to me. Like, that's a video that's going to appeal to a lot of people.
Right. No, it is, and that wouldn't have bothered me if he drove it and it showed 1.5 miles per kilowatt hour and he lost a third of his range, because that's what you would expect, maybe even 1.4. But when he drove it so inefficiently, and I can't make my truck be so inefficient, that's when I said, I call BS here. This is just, it's false, it's fake, and that's what just rubbed me the wrong way. But typically, I don't. The videos don't bother me when people post stuff like that, but I watched this one and I'm like, I own that truck, and that's wrong. Like, what he's saying here is wrong. So anyway, that's why I did
it. Greg Poche asks, "Who's Columbo?" That would be a character played by Peter Falk back in the 70s. It was a great show. You can find
who's Columbo.
I'm not. Awesome. Look, he's the best. I love.
I'm not that old. Come on. Yeah.
Right.
Go and watch some Columbo on YouTube. It's awesome.
So we're just about out of time, but I wanted to ask Kyle about. So Kyle put together a bunch of videos this week that worth checking out. There's actually a really cool one with the Ioniq Mobility Electric in Colorado that I believe you have Max do an interview with the owner of this crazy electric car from the 80s that. I didn't realize this was made by the same people who end up, changing their name to UQM. It's like the acronym of that, and making like electric motors and inverters and things like that. So that was a pretty entertaining video, and it's a really unique looking car, a little bit funky. It's like, didn't have a heater. They needed a heater, so they stuck like a hair dryer under the dash. Like it's the best. You got to check that out. But you did more on a more serious note for all of us. You got to check out a high power 350 kilowatt charge point unit, charging on the Express Plus for the first time. Want to fill us in on that a little bit?
Yeah, certainly. And my computer's at 1%. So if I cut out, I'm sorry.
Okay.
And I can't find the charger anywhere. So I got the screen brightness all the way down. ChargePoint Express Plus. Finally, we have some big boy juicy chargers from ChargePoint. We're all super familiar with ChargePoint's DC fast charger, the CPE 250. The problem is in single configuration, they work great. 62.5 kilowatt output all day long, no issue at all. When you pair them, you can go up to 125 kilowatt output nameplate. You can basically take two different cabinets and feed it through one post, but it's only through a 200 amp limited cable. It's an air-cooled or passively cooled cable. The thing is, there's a lot of cables on the market that are passively cooled that offer a boost function where you can go up to 300, 350 amps and then after 20 minutes or something, it'll derate down. I don't know why they didn't choose those cables for the CPE 250, where you could at least get a portion of time at 300 plus amps output, which would get you close to that 125 kilowatt on a 400 volt car. You can get that power on a E-GMP car. A Taycan can get pretty close. Hummer EV, because higher voltage, you don't need as much current to reach the 125 kilowatt peak charging speed. But all in all, when you pull up to those, they say 125, you get about 70 to 90, and that's just a bit of a shame. So I've been ragging on ChargePoint about this for a while. We've also known they've had this new product called the Express Plus sitting in the queue for the last 4 or 5 years, something like that, a really long time. And it just never made it to market. I don't really understand why, but now finally they have an up to 500 amp capable output charger, 400 kilowatt charging power that can be split across 2 posts in a configuration, so up to 350 kilowatt per port. Really nice looking charger. It did fault on me on my first try, so that was a little bit interesting. So we need to keep an eye on our reliability of these. But again, the first time charging is not a good reliability score. This is our initial, meet and greet of the charger, figure it out, take a look at all the components, get it going. This particular one was configured in a 200 kilowatt output configuration. I got every bit of the 200 kilowatts on a 400 volt classic car. I brought my Model S with the CCS adapter. The reason I like using my Model S for charge testing is actually because the car asks for more than 500 amps. It's not like the Rivian that's programmed to not go over. The Tesla's like, give me 680, 690 when it's nice and warm and low. So I know I can max out the chargers with it. And some of them, of course, have their internal limits. We hit the internal limit of this one at about 200 kilowatts and worked great. Nice location, nice charger. Very pleased. Love the cables. Uses the Phoenix contact cables. I'm not sure if they're actually any more reliable than the Huber cables, Huber-Schuner H and S cables. But either way, they really have a great ergonomic flow to them. Big fan. And all around a very nice charging station.
Kyle, let me ask you a question. Who owns that site?
That is one of the very few and very rare ChargePoint owned and operated sites.
See, that's the point. Because your question earlier was they've had this and they've had these ready for over 4 years. And you just wonder why you haven't seen them out in the wild. Well, it's because of ChargePoint's business model. The fact that they just want to sell the equipment and let the property owner pay for installation and all that stuff, and then manage the back end and take a percentage of the person's revenue. And the fact that these cost so much, these higher powered units, Kyle just dropped out. But the fact that they cost so much is why we haven't seen them in the wild, because ChargePoint won't install and manage them themselves. And they have a few locations, as Kyle just pointed out. This is one of the stations. And that's why I asked him that question. I didn't know that this was a ChargePoint owned and operated station, but now it makes sense. That's why we don't see these out there, because they're the property and site owners, they cost too much money for people to install and maintain.
Right. Oh, looks like Kyle found his charge cable.
And News Cologne said that, I don't know if they were ready 4 years ago. Yeah, I don't know if they were ready, but they did introduce them, because I was at CES when they introduced them. Right. And I was talking to them about them, and they were saying these are going to go in the ground this year. So,
right. Best laid plans.
Yeah. But I know it's their business model that's held them from being installed, because the fact that they want to sell the equipment and have the property owner have to deal with the cost of installing it, maintaining it, and all that stuff, and then just take 10% of their revenue. That's why we don't see these out there. And that's why I'm not surprised, Kyle. While you were gone, I said, I'm not surprised this is one of the few ChargePoint owned and operated sites that has this station.
I also think they're probably using it, and maybe you brought up this point while I was gone, but I think they're using it a lot for testing and validation. There's only maybe 4 of these, I think, available in the public. I think 3 in Maine or 2 in Maine, and then 1 here in Colorado, and 1 at their lab in California that's not public accessible. So, I think they're just rolling out. I think they want to own the chargers. They want to make sure they work, and then eventually sell them away.
Yeah. So we're just about out of time, but you did another video this week too, Kyle. What is it called? Electrify America has been upgrading their sites with new chargers. Here's how it's going so far. I don't know if you could give us like a 60-second breakdown.
Yeah, this was like just a very anecdotal piece of just some of the issues I've been seeing with the new Electrify America charging hardware. I would say broadly quite reliable, actually. The new stuff going in looks very nice. In general, works pretty well. But sadly, we're still seeing some of the same issues, largely software driven, is my understanding, of the new hardware. And we've seen them deliver dirty power, if you will, to vehicles, sending more power than what's being requested. That's what happened to my Rivian on multiple occasions. Of course, the car always controls the charging conversation. It says, give me this much, and the charger is supposed to match that. Well, in this case, the car says, give me this much, and the charger goes, oh, here's more. Oh, crap, I went too much. Here's below. Oh, now you need more. And it freaks the Rivian out a little bit. I've also seen the same issues happen on an Audi e-tron GT. By the way, that issue is confirmed by Rivian engineers who dug into the logs on my truck. So I made sure that is truly the fault here. So they really need to work on their power control strategy. For example, I had an issue. I didn't bring it up in the video, but I was charging on one the other day, and there was a guy in an ID4 who was trying to get his car to activate on a new station or on one of the new stations. And we have, 3 in a row. And for whatever reason, it wasn't working. He was on the phone with technical support, and they decided to restart his station. Well, when they restarted his, it bricked my entire charging session. So if I had walked away from the truck, right, I wouldn't be able to come back to it, in time, hopefully. So we have a lot of problems here, unfortunately, still with the new hardware. And to me, it's a bit unacceptable at this point. So I'm being a bit harsh, going out there, pointing out every problem I see, because I don't know any other way that this stuff's going to get better.
Right. And I'm sure Electrified America is not happy when anything's go wrong for them as well. And they do work.
Well, you would think. Do we know that to be true?
I mean,
we don't know it to be 100% true, right? That any charging company is has any emotion towards this. It's a numbers thing.
Right. I mean, well, we've talked with people on their infrastructure series, and we can tell some of these people are deeply emotionally involved and want this.
I'm not sure that really matters one way or another, but I think we really just need reliable fast charging. Well, yeah. And unfortunately, we just haven't gotten it yet from any charging provider. Right. ChargePoint faulted on me this week. I had an EVgo Signet station where a leaf unplugged. For whatever reason, it bricked my charging session and errored out. So it's not just EA. I'm not trying to point the finger there. The reason they get the most attention from our side is because they have the most amount of chargers that we use. They build the corridor charging. They're the spotlight. As soon as EVgo builds out their pilot station network, guess what? When those fault, we'll be there saying, what the heck's going on too? It's not anything against them. And really, it's all in the effort to have reliable, fast charging.
Right. All right. So we have to end it at that, I think. So that brings us to the end of our show. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them on the Inside EV's forum podcast thread or on our YouTube or Twitch comment sections. If you like the show, please give us a thumbs up. Thumbs up. If you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget you can find and follow our panelists on Twitter. Follow Tom Mologney at Tomolog, that's with 2 M's. Martin Lee is at EV News Daily. Kyle Connor is at It's Kyle Connor. Click subscribe and tap that bell icon for notifications, and we'll see you all again next week. Thanks for joining us. Ciao.